All right, we're going to talk about the economic benefit of a trade. This is one of these topics that everyone should know. Every member of society should have an understanding of this. Like, really, people shouldn't be able to get out of high school until they have this understanding. Unfortunately, I don't run the world, so I can't make the rules and have everyone understand this. But when we live in a capitalistic society, right? Capitalism is like the governing economic law that we live in. This is one of the fundamental basic ideas of how capitalism works and how transactions work. So how we can have members of society in a capitalistic society not know this, it's strange to me. But in any case, we're going to look at when a trade should happen, maybe when trade shouldn't happen, and then what the economic benefit of transactions are. So let's just jump into an example right away. My friend has a car. Now, this car is going to have different value to different people, right? Now, it might have a market price maybe, and then that market price will affect our personal values for it. But for now, let's just say the happiness we would get as individuals owning this car. To me, this car is worth $20,000. My friend's car is worth $20,000 to me. Let's say the same car to my friend is worth $16,000. Should an economic transaction take place here? And this is something you should just be able to think through. I mean, I'll give you a rule for it, but you should be able to just use your brain and use logic and figure out the answer. The answer is yes, right? It's worth more to me than it is to him. So a transaction should happen. So it ends up going to me, and then he gets some kind of compensation for that. And that is always the time a transaction should happen, because there is an economic benefit to the transaction if the person receiving the good gets higher utility from it than the person who currently has the good. Now, what is that economic value that is created through this transaction? Well, it's the difference between our dollar values of utilities. It's the difference between our valuations. So it's $4,000 in this case. My friend loses an asset that's worth $16,000, and I'm gaining an asset that's worth $20,000. So the net difference is 4, right? 20,000 minus 16,000. So that establishes that a transaction should take place. It would be beneficial to society, because our utilities should net increase, if a transaction were to happen. Now, this is a much trickier question. What is the price the transaction should happen at? Now, there are numerous answers for this, but there's really no one correct answer. Really, the answer is anywhere between my reserve price of $20,000 and my friend's reserve price of $16,000 is an acceptable place for this transaction. Now note that it shouldn't happen for higher than $20,000 or less than $16,000, and I'll come back to that in a second. The reason is that actually lowers the happiness of one of us if that happens, so that person who has lower utility shouldn't make that trade. So the transaction shouldn't really happen outside of those bounds. But what would be the fairest place for the transaction? Probably where the economic benefit is split. If it was $18,000, then we would both get $2,000 of benefit. I'm getting an asset that's worth $20,000, and I'm paying $18,000. So I have $2,000 net benefit, right? $20,000 minus $18,000. Look at my friend's case. He's losing an asset that's worth $16,000, but he's getting $18,000. So same thing with him. He's getting a $2,000 benefit. That's kind of, at least in my eyes, a very nice way that this economic benefit is split. It's split between us. We share in the benefit of the transaction. Now, especially with stores that might have some market power or where customers have a hard time finding exactly what it is they're looking for, if customers have high search costs, this type of transaction often won't be right in the middle. So let's say my friend refused to sell the car for less than $19,000. I would still be happy to do the transaction for $19,000. I would only get $1,000 of the benefit, where my friend would get the $3,000. Now notice that if my friend knows what my reserve price is, if he knows my reserve price is $20,000, he could set the price very, very close to that and then extract maximum value. So like he could say, I'm going to sell you this car for $19,900 and not a penny more. Now, I would still want to do that transaction, but he was able to kind of exploit the transaction because he knew what my reserve was. I could do the same thing to him if I knew his reserve. If I knew his reserve was $16,000. In real life, the people you are kind of bargaining with or haggling with don't know your reserves, or at least they shouldn't. And so here's a business tip for you. If you are trying to make an arrangement with someone, do not tell them what your true reserve price is, because that gives them all of the bargaining power, unless you also know theirs. If you can somehow be totally honest with each other and show what your reserve prices are, then you can, meet in the middle. You could meet at 18,000, and that would be awesome. But you shouldn't necessarily trust people unless they prove that they can be trustworthy many times in the past to you. One other comment about price is this case where it actually is outside of the bounds of the 20 and 16,000. So for instance, let's say my friend was a very, very good salesman, and I thought my reserve price was 20, but I maybe don't know the car super well. Like, I don't know the true value of the car and my friend does. Or I don't know myself super well. And this is something, before you make big purchases, you should figure out what your true reserve price is for whatever it is you're purchasing. Because if you don't know what your reserve price is, you could get put through the ringer and end up paying a much higher price than you kind of really should, because you let them manipulate your emotions or talk up how valuable the thing is, and you will pay a higher price. Let's get an example of that here. If my friend is a very, very good salesman, and he is able to convince myself, he's able to convince me, I should convince me, not convince myself. Bad grammar. I study finance, not English. If he can convince me that my reserve is higher than 20,000, let's say 21,000, and we have a trade at 21,000, then not only does my friend take all of the economic benefit of the transaction, and the economic benefit never changes, remember, whatever price the transaction happens at, there's only $4,000 of benefit. Because he's only convinced me my value is greater than 20,000. My true value actually is 20,000. If the transaction happens at 21,000, he gets all 4,000 of the economic benefit, plus he extracts an additional $1,000 of value from me. He takes my wealth, he takes my money and transfers it to himself. This is one reason salesmen kind of get a bad reputation, because they're often kind of pushy, or good salesmen kind of manipulate people into taking transactions that might not even be beneficial for them. And this is kind of the economic description of how they do it. They convince people that their value of the asset they are buying is higher than it actually is, which gets people to agree on a higher price than they actually should. But this is a powerful concept for you no matter what position you're in. If you own a company, you can think about how you want to have the economic benefit split between you and your customers. And if you give them more of the economic benefit, you might become better known faster, you might get higher sales, but you won't have higher profit margins, right? Your profit margins will be lower. If you're in sales and you're making sales, you understand what your goal is here, right? Try to convince them that their utility is higher than it actually is. Or you can be a more honest salesman and just be like, look, I have to make money here. I have to get a good portion of the economic benefit to this transaction. I need to sell you the car at $19,000. You don't necessarily have to manipulate and exploit everyone. And then lastly, for an individual consumer, if you're buying a house, if you're buying a car, even if you walk into a Walmart and you see some knickknack that you want to buy, think about what its true value is to you, and then is the price higher or lower than that true value? And that's when the transaction should happen. All right, let's talk about a few different market types. And then we can kind of jump into whether transactions take place or not in the actual stock market. So a direct search market is usually a very inefficient market. And by the way, we're going from least efficient to most efficient, generally speaking. Direct search is where one person looking to do a transaction actually has to seek out and find the other side of the transaction, and they do all the work for that. This isn't efficient because it can take a long time and a lot of energy to find someone to buy what it is you're selling, or to find someone to sell what it is you want to buy. And depending how illiquid and kind of weird and exotic the thing you're looking to trade in is, it's going to be harder and harder, right? If I wanted to, let's say, buy something common, just like buy food of some kind, well, lots of people are going to be trading food. Lots of people will be buying and selling food, so it'll probably be fairly easy to find someone to sell me food. But if I wanted to buy, let's say, special collector's edition decks of cards made in the year 1941 or something, well, this is a very illiquid kind of strange asset, and it will take a huge amount of time to find someone to take the other side of my trade. Now, a brokered market is actually very similar to a direct search. It's just when there is someone who plays an intermediary role and gets the buyer and the seller together so the transaction can happen. These markets are usually more efficient because the broker has skill at matching people, and the broker might know a lot of buyers and know a lot of sellers, and so they facilitate the transaction. Of course, brokers take a fee for this. It's a very valuable service they provide, so they take part of the economic benefit of the transaction. Most common broker market people think of is the housing market here in the US, right? If you want to sell your house, I mean, people can do direct searches, and that type of thing does happen, but the vast majority of real estate transactions are done because someone says, hey, I want to buy a house. You go to a broker and you tell the broker, I want to do this transaction. Find someone who's looking to sell the house that I want to get that fit these specifications. And the broker gets that list and takes you around and then matches you with the person to take the other side of the transaction. Now, slightly different than brokered markets, again, are dealer markets, and that is where, instead of being simply an intermediary that matches a buyer and the seller, like a broker does, you have the person you talk to in a real estate business say, you know what, don't worry about it, I'll take the transaction you want to take right now, and then I'll worry about finding the other side of the trade myself later. So for instance, let's say you wanted to sell your house. Instead of having a broker spend a lot of time to match a buyer for your house, they'll just say, okay, I'll buy your house. I'll buy your house right now. You want to sell it to me? Here's $200,000. The big difference here is the dealer actually has the house on their balance sheet. They lose cash from their balance sheet and they get a house asset. Now what their goal is to take that house asset and convert it back to cash or, some kind of money by selling it. They get it off their balance sheet. Now, this is often more efficient because, again, dealers have a ton of info about the market. They understand prices very well and often have a large inventory that they're always managing. They're always buying and selling. And they often know buyers and sellers as well, kind of like brokers would. But the dealer is able to buy the house from you almost right away because they have the confidence that they can find a seller a bit down the line. Like brokers, dealers make a profit. In fact, I would say dealers maybe make even a larger profit than brokers do because they're taking risk here. Dealers are putting the asset on their balance sheet. And if something happens, like the housing market crashes while they have the houses on their balance sheets, the value of the houses go down a lot and their wealth will go down. And we'll talk about personal finance and balance sheet and wealth just in a little bit, a couple more lectures away. Finally, the last market, and the most important market for this course, because this is where the secondary stock market falls, is auction markets. And these are usually highly efficient markets with tons of traders trading quite liquid and common assets. So all the traders converge at one place. These days, it's not one physical location like it used to, like a trading floor. It is a place in cyberspace, right? A virtual spot where millions or billions of transactions take place. Now, in an auction market, you get lots of different people that want to buy a certain asset for lots of different prices, right? Someone might say, oh, I'll buy this asset for $10. Someone else says, I'll buy this asset for $10.10. And you get a collection of bids because the people are offering to buy the asset for a certain amount of money. They're bidding on the asset, right? In auction, there's a bidding process. On the other side, you have people who say, well, I'll sell this asset for $10.50. I'll sell this asset for $10.40. They are asking a certain price for their asset that they have. They will sell you the asset for the price that they are asking for the asset. If I went to one of those people, the person who's saying, I'll sell you this share of stock for $10.40, I can hand them $10.40, here you go, put it in their hand, and then they give me the share of stock, and the trade happens. So the price that you can buy an asset at, or the price that you can buy a share of stock at, is the ask price, because it is from the point of view of the dealers, the people offering these transactions. And the price that you can sell a share of stock at, that you sell into the market, is the bid price. So, bids or offers to buy. Again, this is from the dealer's perspective. In dealer markets, the dealers are offering to buy the stock, so the bid is the price to buy. People confuse this a lot. This is why I'm saying it over and over and over and over. It's not from your point of view as the individual investor that's going to the market and saying, I want to buy this for whatever the price is. It's from the point of view of the dealers. You sell to the bid as an investor, just like you buy from the ask price. All right, I think we shall pause there and pick up with types of orders and then actually look at this example of an order book next time and look at some problems. So quiz time, and we'll talk more about order books in a moment. See ya.